and welcome. My name is J. Lee Hubbs. This is Xtrageous art, if you are curious on how to say that correctly. It is a combination of extraordinary and outrageous, because I kind of consider myself that. I do a lot of outside of the box thinking. At the end of this episode, I will be showing you what's going to happen for next week. So I'm pretty excited about that because I've already kind of started prepping for it. But today we're going to do ornaments. Now, every year I always do ornaments for gifts. Last year I made the cutest little sharks in a glass bubble with pebbles and a little Santa hat on them. Everybody loved him. I used to work for a university and that was their mascot, so I gave everybody there an ornament, and as well as my neighbors, my friends, so on, etc. But this year, my idea was a little off the wall, and I had to have some help from my friend Steve. He's usually my go-to when it comes to anything construction-wise. He came up with a wonderful, what he called a jig, where we will be using this to assist with making holes. Now this is just a regular piece of plywood. It's about a half an inch thick, and basically I did make some startups because we had to play around with it a little bit, but these are not what they're going to look like, but this is another idea of what you can do with this. So basically 3.5 inches, 2.5 inches, and a 1.5 inch. So with this one, you can actually put these all together, put it on the opposite side as well, and you have yourself a little ornament. Now, wood is non-reflective, but it holds paint really well. So I will show you towards the end of us creating what I came up with. I'll go ahead and show you what paint looks like on wood and what adding a little lacquer would do for your project. Especially when it comes to underneath your Christmas tree, because everybody has lights and you want them reflecting off your ornaments to make it just like that much more spectacular. So I'll go ahead and show you that at the end. Now, first what we're going to start off with is the piece of plywood. Set yourself up on sawhorses, or if you have a table of some sort, you can use that. I like the sawhorses, it makes me more portable. So we're going to start off with that. Now, you can use a power drill, or you can use, I like corded because they last longer, they're usually more powerful. This happens to be a hammer drill because my property has a lot of concrete and it's hard as heck to get anything hung. So it definitely helps to have the hammer feature on your drill. But we'll be using the regular feature. See, you can see the hammer and then the regular feature here. It's still a very powerful drill. If you're not used to drilling, I definitely recommend using a cordless power. This is actually my nephew's that I'm borrowing. So we're going to start off with making the first hole. The first hole is going to be the 1.5 inch hole. And then what I'll be doing is using his jig to make the next set of holes. In this project, you're going to need quite a bit of things, so my plan is to take this, if it records it, because I'm not even sure yet, and put in what type of equipment. Now, what I did was I bought myself a hole saw drill kit. It was $56 off Amazon. They had a lot of different options. A lot of the problems with the other options that were a lot cheaper was that the blades would end up chipping off, and then they'd only be able to get so much use out of it. Plywood can be considered a harder wood, so I would recommend going a little heftier and buying something that's going to last longer, like this one is DeWalt, which is a great name brand. This one also has a lot of different options, so if you wanted to make your pieces even thinner, which I highly don't recommend, because you'll see how thin it already is. It's only going to be about a half an inch. But this was $56. I did end up having to buy a larger extra drill bit for the 3.5 because most sets come with up to 2.5, which is why I made my ornaments up to 3.5. So 3.5, 2.5, 1.5. This bit itself, I believe it was $40. So it's not cheap, but this is one of those projects that you can do and change up. And if you cut a bunch of them and you make a bunch of them, you can actually make it an art project with your kids, so you could actually have them paint and put it on the tree and make them look really pretty by using that lacquer, and it doesn't take anything away from your Christmas tree. So this is the 3.5, and this is the 2.5 inch, and then this is the 1.5 inch, which is going to be the first one we're using today. Go ahead and put these to the side here. So I'm going to be making some noise, so cover your ears. So basically you want to try to line yourself if you've never drilled before. I happen to be a DIYer, so I do a lot of different home crafts. And even I needed assistance on helping get this all set up for myself, just to make sure that I was doing everything correctly for you guys. Because this is the first time I've ever made one of these, which you will see in just about every single video that I do. They will be first times, and you'll be learning with me on different approaches. So take your drill, you put it, line it up vertically, and then you just go. Now, a lot of the time when you go, the drill bit, once it hits the teeth, it'll jerk, and you probably saw that. So be prepared for it when you're doing it. I like to go really slow, and I like to transition to when the teeth actually grab and start to get the actual hole. I like to go a little bit harder once I press down. So be wary of that. Now, a lot of the time, the wood will get stuck in here, which is why I like the D-wall, because the D-wall actually has grooves right on these sides, you can see, which allows you to put a flathead in and just kind of jimmy it out. And then pop, you got it down. Now that's the first one that we're doing. Now we got to change our drill bit. Now, if you've never changed a hall saw, it's going to take a little practice, because I had to remind myself I haven't used one in 4 years at least. So I had to play around with it a little bit. So there's teeth at the bottom. You just put those down until it grabs hold, and then this actually screws on. So you just screw it back off, and then you put it aside. Now I'm going to be using the 2.5 inch. Now when you're putting it on, you're going to be screwing it down until it grabs like it just did. But this time you're going to actually have to look inside and line up, because there's little teeth here that will go into the actual piece of the drill bit. So you have to look in and line up. It does not have to be tight. I actually highly recommend it not being tight, because we had a heck of a time putting things together, and we ended up needing to get wrenches and all kinds of other stuff just to be able to. So now that we got our drill set up, what I'm going to do is take this jig my friend Steve so kindly made for us, and I'm going to try to line this up inside the hole. Now you can't really see, let me actually do it this way so you can see. I'm going to put my piece aside that I just created, and I'm going to put my drill down here, and you'll see that I am lining up. Oh, that's interesting. Why did that happen? There we go. So you'll see that it's actually lining up with the hole that I just created. And then what I'm going to do is screw it down. Now, I originally was not made aware on how difficult this would actually be at first. But luckily my friend Steve, the construction man that he is, he came up with this for me, and it made it a lot simpler. So basically what he did, just so you know, is he made the second hole and the third hole for me on this, and then he put the 2 starter screws in here, so that way I could just place it over the original hole, because you'll see that on the drill bit, why is this going off? it loose? Yeah. Sorry about that. So you'll see that there's an actual drill bit here. Now my original plan was to take the drill bit and then go in and then use those solid pieces like I had shown you earlier to actually make additional holes from this one. Problem is that that's very dangerous. And we realized very quickly that that would not be a good option. So if you don't do this, you could use clamps. Now you'd have to buy expensive, hard, like clamps that actually have screws, because the clamps that I had were these plastic ones and they don't do nothing. They're just basically wasted space in my little tool kit. So like I said, use this jig. It's actually much better, and I feel like it's actually a lot safer. So you just line yourself up. You could do it eyeball, or you can measure it out. It's completely up to you. Personally, I like a little wonkiness, hence the outrageous in the name. To this project, it actually looked pretty cool when we tried it out. But I'm going to try to make this as straight as I possibly can for you. And we're going to go ahead and screw in. And just do a double check. Actually, that looks like it's a little off. So let me just reline this up. That looks pretty good. And for some reason it seems like it slipped just a little bit. So I'm just going to loosen this up a little bit so I can move the top piece of wood to where I'd like it to be. I think that's about good. So we'll go ahead and put that. So I think that's, let's make sure that's all the way in. Don't ever do that. You could strip the screw. But all right, so now what's cool is this piece is now fitting inside that piece. So now it's actually a little bit more safer. So we'll go ahead and make the second hole. And now we have a hole within a hole. The last one we'll try to do that one really quickly, and then we're going to take a sander and sand off the edges. There it goes. And line up our last hole, the big hole, and set that one in as best as we can. That looks pretty good. Very nice. This side just does not want to hold. There it goes. All right. And we're going to change out our bit. Now normally I would go ahead and make a bunch of these at one time, but I really just trying to have these segments about a half an hour long. That way it doesn't take up too much time, especially on a Thursday evening at 8 o'clock, plus my neighbors would probably kill me. Let's go ahead and line that up. Perfect. And we'll tighten that up. And then we'll go ahead and make our last hole. Ooh. Saw that? Very careful. And that is our last hole. And is it, did it roll that way? Can you get it for me? Kind of ran away from me. Thanks, Steve. And this is our last hole. So now what we're gonna do, don't need the drill anymore for the next part at all. So I have a handy dandy little sander. These are great. I actually got this off of Amazon. I think it was like 20 bucks. Just a little hand, you know. These are Velcroed in, and you just put them on. There are different types of sandpaper. This one came with 2 different types, but you can buy more online. Or, of course, you can go to Home Depot and try to find it in that mess and try to find a person. It's been such a pain every time I go there. So you'll see that this one has a little bit more coarseness, and this one's a little bit more smooth. I don't know if you could see that difference. I'm using the more coarse one to try to get off all of these edges here. So you just do it by eye. I like to make kind of a rounded edge to make it nice and clean. So you see how it makes it nice and clean right there, and it takes all of the jaggedness off of it. And it honestly, like right now, it looks like it's really onky, right? So you can actually sand it down to make it kind of fit better if you don't want it to be that way. Now when you're doing the sanding of the front, my recommendation, you can either pinch in the inside, but these, it's honestly like a vibration. It's not bad. And that'll sand off the front. I'll show you the one that I had done earlier. Oh, this one, I didn't finish this one up here. I'll show you this one that I did do. How it's nice and round, and it's all smooth, and it's got most of the jagged edge off. And then what we'll do is we'll take the pieces and we'll put them inside of one another. You see them? And what's cool about this is that the idea that I had is that these will be able to turn. So they can kind of go in circles. You could paint them different colors. You could put little things here. You could also put little details out on the outside. It just really depends on how you would like to do it. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to take my nephew's drill. There it goes. And take a drill bit. Make sure it's a wood drill bit. And you'll go ahead and tighten that in. Now this part we didn't even test, so hopefully it works. But that's what we're here for, to learn, right? We'll learn together, why not? So you can do it 2 different ways. You can go ahead and eyeball it and just kind of figure it out yourself, or you can go ahead and put a line from one side to the other with all of the pieces within its. But since I didn't do any prep work for that, I'm just going to eyeball it right now because honestly, we just want to see it done, right? Okay. So be very, 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 very careful because you are taking it in between your fingers, and this is a drill and you can hurt yourself. But if you take it nice and slow, you'll be okay. Just be confident in yourself whenever you're using power tools, because I swear they know that you're not confident when you're using them. So at least pretend with them. So you'll just go straight into the middle. I'm just going to make a little starter hole. That way I know where I'm going. And then I'm going to take that starter hole that I have and line it up and point directly down. Make sure I'm lined up with the hole that's already been there from the drill. And then I'm going to just take it nice and slow. You know, think of Bob Ross. Bob Ross was so awesome. That man was amazing. Honestly, like every time I make a mistake, I always think about him. I'm like, okay, how can I make my little happy tree? Um, because it was a mistake that was supposed to happen, right? Actually, that looks like it's coming out a little wonky. So I'm just going to back it up and then move it a little bit. Kind of put pressure to try to relight it up. Hold it still as much as I possibly can. And I've got my hole. So now we'll do that with the other pieces. Be a little bit more difficult just because of the fact that you got a nice hollow point. So you're probably going to just want to switch it from one side to the other. There we go. And we got a nice little hole there. And honestly, you know, why have everything perfect? Why don't make it a little wonky on purpose? Gives it more character, in my personal opinion. But, you know, that's just me. You know, you might be one of those perfectionists that just want to have everything, like, lined up as so. And if that is something that you do need, then, you know, take that extra time and make it happen. Alright, this side is giving me a little problem, so I'm just going to try to do a little starter. Take it nice and slow, and then go ahead and shoot it through. And now we got 2 holes. One more hole on the big guy. This one, of course, I didn't sand, so my apologies. But we'll go ahead and put this hole in, and then we'll go ahead and finish up this project. And you can have a nice, happy little merry way. Nice. Alright, I'm going to try to line that up. Put the hole down there. Alright, so my recommendation is using wire. Now, when I originally thought about this idea, I forgot about the fact that when you're making a cut, you're going to be making a cut that goes through and leaves kind of a gap. So I don't have any spacers, but that's okay because right now we just kind of want to see what it looks like, and it also gives you an excuse to go to Michael's and get some beads, because that would be a really pretty center for it, to be completely honest with you. But I want you to at least have an idea of the overall feel of what I was going for, and hopefully you can help perfect it. But now you can see how it can kind of go. You can even set it up to be a certain way